Thank you so much for coming back to Sarita Talks. I really want to thank you for tuning in to this special series. It's about post incarceration syndrome. And I always love it when I have someone that I have shared experience with, someone who knows the struggle, and who I recently found out has actually, done 14 years, just like I did 14 and a half. She just did it at a different camp. But we did the last of our time together at the same camp. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, yes. The last
Yes.
5 years we did together. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And let me tell you, it's a shared struggle, and a lot of people, as we do a lot of time together, we become sisters. We really embrace each other. And I've realized that it's even more important to have that community when you get out, or just as important to have that community. So me and you had kind of talked a little bit about your experiences when you first got out. And if I could lead in, I know a lot of people were like, it just seemed as though everyone already knew I'd been to prison.
Mm.
Do you can you relate, or tell me how you
When
felt
I
when you
first
got
came,
out?
you're saying like whenever like when you first came home, you felt like everybody knew that you came from prison.
No, I didn't feel that way, but I know that I
Oh.
know several people who have been out in public and been like, "Oh my god, I feel so isolated. I feel like everybody knows."
Yeah.
So,
I didn't feel like everybody knew. It was more like I didn't want anybody to find out. Like, and like when you
yeah.
socialize with people, you have to like talk to them and they're going to ask you questions. They're going to wonder why, like, hey, where'd you come from? Like, where you from? You're not from around here. And they get the digging. And then eventually you get on that topic of, oh, I was in prison. I did. So,
Yes.
then they start asking questions. So mine was more so I didn't want them to find out. I didn't think that people already knew. I just, that was about it. Now, paranoia was kicking my butt, anxiety was kicking my butt,
Tell me
irritation.
about the paranoia. Tell me
Okay,
about the
so
paranoia.
when I first came home, lucky me, I had a roommate, so I wasn't as paranoid. However,
Yes.
my paranoia kicked in real bad one day when I was at the house by myself, and there were a bunch of men working on like the roofs and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And I don't know why, but like I literally sat in the living room where in a at a place where I could see the front door and the back door, because
Yeah.
it wasn't that I thought they were going to do something to me. I just my paranoia kicked in right then and there.
Yes, yes, we're not used to environments like that with men just
Yeah.
wandering around unchecked.
Yes,
Yeah,
like the men that we're used to that have uniforms, they don't
right,
make eye contact. They don't flirt with you for real. Like they unless you're on that type of time with them. But like so
right.
that's another thing that made me feel awkward coming home is like men were like,
Interactions.
yes, interactions with the men and things like that. Like I didn't feel
And
uncomfortable, but I did feel like ugh, you know?
And I feel like, you know what, we don't get any type of relationship classes in there because
No.
they want to, tamper down on anything. But here's the thing, you've got 1,200 people, and most of them are leaving one day and they will be in another relationship. So why
Absolutely.
aren't we addressing our trauma and things like that? But I definitely want to talk to not wanting people to know. I went through that same thing, and then it becomes a whole story, and I feel like a sideshow freak.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ooh,
Mm-hmm.
you've been to prison. Let's talk
Yeah.
to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what are some coping? Have you found some good coping skills to kind of put that in a place?
So I okay, I don't know if this is a coping skill or not, but what I do is I think about the bigger picture. I think about where I'm going, my goals, my achievements, and things like that. And that keeps me from like feeling overwhelmed with people like, oh, you've been to prison, or asking me 1,000 questions and things like that. I'm getting
Yeah.
better as the day go on. I think like for the most part nowadays, I've been out like 5 weeks now. So nowadays I'm more so I don't really care to I don't like to talk about my crime. It's not that I
Yes.
don't care. I just don't like to talk about it because it brings back memories and makes me think about my victim, and it makes me think about a lot of things, and I know people are just asking questions because they want to know, but then I get to thinking about judgment and
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. It looks like we lost Jackie for a minute, but while we're waiting on her to come back, let me tell you what she's talking about is real. These are real scenarios with real people who every day are dealing with the trauma. That's like I got released in 2022. I still have not been able to. Jackie, are you back? I still have not been able to move past a lot of the trauma that just came with being an incarcerated woman, you know, and on top of that, my own mental health. And I've recently, been through a time where I was really running hard. I was not taking care of myself, and I really feel like my post incarceration syndrome was this life that I'm trying to develop. 46 years in, I have tried to get myself to that 46-year-old marker through achievements, through work, through just given back, but I've just done everything to the utmost. And I really feel like a lot of that has to do with me wanting the approval of others because, having committed a crime and going to jail, you always, I personally feel like I have so much to prove
Oh,
to everyone. Oh, okay. You're back.
I'm so
Yay.
like I don't know what
Yay.
happened.
That's
I don't
okay.
know what happened. I'm so sorry.
That's
Like
no,
I
no, no.
was
You're
talking.
fine. Well, I was talking about having you feeling like you always need to prove yourself. Have you
Hmm.
experienced that yet? Because
Yeah.
that is something I'm battling with.
Yes. Actually, I just started working. This is my second week working, and
Yeah.
everyone's kind of just looking at me like, to see if I can do it because I've been in prison 1,000 years. So they automatically assume I don't know how to work, or I'm like unable or incapable, or something like that. What
Right.
they don't know is I worked the entire time I was in prison. You have to have a job in prison. I'm used to getting
Mm-hmm.
up early in the morning. I'm used to labor. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
like that stuff don't bother me. So like right now, like I think like everyone at my job is like, dang, like you doing better than a lot of these people here. Yeah, because
Yeah.
I do this. I'm built for this. What do you mean?
And,
I'm
and let
built
me
for
tell
hard
you,
work.
most of the people who they've given these titles to, ex-convict, felon, offender, we are the hardest working people because not only do we want to prove it to
Absolutely.
ourselves, we want to prove it to others. And what is the biggest deficit you have when you
Absolutely.
come out of prison? Finances. That's why a lot of people do not make it because the cards, now you can shuffle those cards, but sometimes they are stacked
Mm-hmm.
in a way in which you've got to be
Like,
extremely
mm-hmm.
dynamic and resilient or just not hit the stumbling blocks because a good stumbling
Uh-oh.
block will knock you right on out the box. So you have this new
Yes, it will.
atmosphere of coworkers, and I realized this too when I got into the work environment. It was kind of like being inside because you got to, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying, you get to know who is who and how they're
Mm-hmm.
moving and
Yeah.
sitting. And I really feel like this, some of the skills, people skills, interpersonal skills that we learn in prison easily translate out here because people, and I made
Yes.
this mistake, I gave them too much credit because they were free. That doesn't mean that they had good
Mm-hmm.
character. So back to these
Absolutely.
coworkers,
Mm-hmm.
you're
Facts.
outshining them. Huh?
Yep, yep. And
Yeah.
I love doing that just because it just shows, like it shows just that. Like it don't matter where I'm from, what I've done in my past. Like if I'm a good person and a hard worker and I have a good heart, like people change. No
We
one stays the
do.
same forever. You either change for the good or
Yes.
you change for the bad. In my case, in your case, we change for the better and the good,
That's
So
right.
it's
That's
like
right.
now like they all have like a sense of. Hello? Are you there? Okay,
Yeah,
now
I'm
they
here.
all have like a sense of respect for me now because they realize
Good.
like cuz they, especially with me being like cute and I'm a girl, they're probably like, "Ah, she's going to probably quit like the rest of them." No, I'm built like this, sweetheart. I
Right,
don't quit.
right. So
Like
what are you
I
doing?
have a
Tell us about your
purpose.
job.
I have things to do. Okay,
Yeah,
so
what
I work at like a packing and shipping warehouse for envelopes. So basically, it's a place where like a lot of companies like they order envelopes and then like we just like make them and package them and ship it off to them. Easy
sounds
peasy.
just like the
To
factories
me,
in
it's
prison.
easy peasy.
Yeah, it sounds just like
Yes,
the
that's what
fact.
I'm saying. And as soon as
Yes, and here's another thing
yes,
too.
yes,
Not only do we work hard, but we're always looking for opportunities to learn. So, Jacqueline, I've talked about this before. Did you come up against this where you weren't able to take some of the classes because of the amount of time that you had to do?
absolutely. And I think it's the dumbest thing ever. I spent
Yes.
at least 11 years doing nothing but labor.
Yes.
Nothing but
Yes,
labor.
and here's another thing. Do not
Because
have don't have a GED, because if you already have a GED or you've
Mhm.
been to college, then that severely limits the opportunities that you can get. So it's basically like,
yes,
go ahead and languish. So and that's another
yes,
thing that really makes me feel some type of way is we are set up in this place to not be able to have the skills when we come out. So that way people are
yes,
accustomed to us not having the skills, but they don't know exactly what our skill sets are.
yes. Or we're behind when we get out.
Yes.
Like when they brought
Yes.
those tablets in and like yeah, when they bought those tablets in like 2018, like I was so happy because it was just like I knew from hearing like through phone calls that the world was very like
Different.
technology different, you know what I mean? Like I knew that they
Yeah.
were very advanced in technology. So it was
Yeah.
like we
Like,
were still writing letters with pen and
oh,
paper
yeah.
when
I
people
tell
were
people all the
emailing and
time
texting.
that when I left, I had a flip phone and I wanted a Motorola Razor, and it was
Yes.
MySpace. People hadn't even started using
Yes.
Facebook really. So, I mean, so much has changed. And for us to be able to
Yes.
adapt to that as well, let me tell you, I remember waking up in my kitchen and I was trying to send an email from my laptop. In my sleep, because I had such a problem with emails with attachments, opening up additional
Mhm.
screens. There
Mhm.
was so much I
Mhm.
didn't know that I felt overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
when have you felt really overwhelmed?
Okay, so I'm gonna say this. Instead of feeling overwhelmed, I actually had moments where I felt stupid or not
No,
smart or like I felt like that because I just felt like godly I can't get it or like I asked a lot of questions and like I had to be careful who I asked questions because then they would make me feel
because
like dang girl like you know what I mean it's like
right?
girl like you've been out here for the last 14 years I haven't I don't know none of this stuff like give me a break give me
Yes,
some grace you know
and,
so
and
and
it
I felt
hurts
like that
too.
I felt like I shouldn't have to say that yeah it hurts that's what that's what I would say the most. Not knowing hurt. Like being a
Yes,
32-year-old woman and don't know how to. Are you there? Okay. It keep
yeah, I'm
blacking in
here.
and out. I'm sorry. That's why I keep asking you
No,
that.
that's okay.
But it hurts knowing that I'm a 32-year-old woman. I've never had a driver's license. I've never driven a car before. I don't know how to pay rent and bills. I'm still learning about credit. Like all these things that all these other people out here have been out here doing, they're looking at me like, or like when I do the Cash App or the credit card and they have like the tap to pay or stick your card in
Yes,
here. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I'm so sorry. Like, can you please help me? They looking at me like,
right.
girl, are you from another planet? Like, what's going
Well,
on?
the
Why you going
QR
on here?
code. The QR code.
That
And you know
too.
what? I really wish somebody would have told me to watch YouTube videos, because YouTube can
Yes.
teach so much. Yeah, but it took
Yes.
me forever to get, to learn about that. And I really feel like
Yeah.
this too. When we're inside, we need someone to take us under, like there should be a class about how do you buy a vehicle. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because there are
Yes.
people just like yourself who don't have these experiences, and you're
Yes.
warehousing us. Equip us. Equip us.
Yes, yes. I feel like the only thing that Missouri Department of Corrections was teaching us how to do is how to be slaves. That's about it.
Yeah,
Like
that's right.
everything else
That's
you
right.
had to go get yourself. Like yeah, they gave you the option to get to further your education and your skills and but we all know that's just a selling point to get you in there so that they can work you like a dog. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because we all know if you didn't go to work, you was going to the hole. That sounds like back in like the 1940s when they used to drag you out
Hmm.
and spit on you and beat you because you don't want to move or you don't want to work or
Right.
whatever the case may be. It was the same thing. It was a lot of times where I felt like I was a slave in prison instead of a human. They wanted you to feel like a number, and they wanted you to feel this small no matter what. And I will say this though, taking those classes and things like that, the closer I got to my date, it did give me like a smidget of confidence, but it did not uh it didn't overshadow all the many years that I was not confident and I was treated like a slave and like a number, you know? You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying
Yeah.
because let me tell
So,
you, it's so dehumanizing. There are so many times where I wanted to say, hey, I'm somebody too, along with all these other women. And you're not going to
mhm,
demoralize us
mhm,
because a lot of times
mhm.
people will come and they don't always have the best intentions when they get those jobs. Now, let me tell you, there are also some,
Yes.
some officers that came through and were able to encourage me at the right time. But a lot of times you are
Mhm.
in spiritual warfare, you are in physical
Yep.
warfare because who
Mental.
knows what's going on,
Mhm.
who's got mental illness,
Mhm.
who's going to snap out today because
Mhm.
these are
Mhm.
high high emotional settings, and this is an
Settings,
everyday thing.
yes.
That's why
And we're all
pick.
close together.
Yes. Yes. And here's another thing. Let you have a roommate who completely does not jam with you're having a tense situation. They're not going to move you. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Sometimes it's either, fight or whatever. They just don't show the amount of care and concern for someone who's going to eventually go home. So what Jackie do
Yes.
you want to come home? What Sarita do you want to come home? Because one
Mhm.
of us is coming home. Now, I heard that from a gentleman who was in a movie about Alcatraz, or excuse me, about Alcatraz and prisons in California. But that is so true. You've got these people and they're pumping, they're sitting around languishing, and you expect to have a different result when people leave.
Yes. Absolutely. And I I felt like I fought harder mentally to be free in prison than I've ever had in my entire life. Like
Oh,
that
absolutely.
journey, walking that journey, there was a lot of things that I had to overcome. There was a lot of things that I had to overlook. There was a lot of things I had to be patient about. Like I feel like I fought. That's when I like really fought the hardest was when I was in prison, not physically,
Yeah.
mentally and emotionally. To keep
I really
myself
feel like
sane
that.
because you can lose yourself. I'm sorry. You can lose
No, go ahead.
yourself or you can find yourself in a place like that. You
That's
know?
that you're absolutely right. And sometimes you've got to be your own best friend. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because there's
Absolutely.
seasons. I remember rough seasons. I remember seasons where, I just was trying to make it through the next day, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when we come out
Have you
here, what was the
go
one
ahead.
thing you think that you could have been that would have helped you before you got released?
I would say learning how to drive. I would say learning
Okay.
how to drive. I wish they would have had a simulator in there for us
Yeah.
so that we could get our driver's license before we came home. Because they already made sure I had my birth certificate, my social security card. They made sure I was job ready. So I'm not, that's the
Right,
reason why I
right,
didn't say that. Because they made sure of that. But I do wish that they would have taught us teach people like me to learn how to
right.
drive and also learn how to work these cell phones out here, go in more
Oh my
depth on
gosh.
how to use these cell phones.
That's true. And when we got those tablets, I was so happy because I was swiping and doing all the things. However, that tablet did not equip us for the technology that we were going to face when we got out here. And let
Say
me tell you,
that.
so
Say that.
I'm able to navigate my podcast show, but people automatically assume that I have all these skills and I am just learning as I go. And sometimes somebody will tell me something
Yes.
that they think is simple, and that changes the game for me because I didn't know.
I
And
do
what
you
you
get
don't know, you don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So were you getting like super, super excited whenever you would find out something? Like when you would learn something?
Yes. Yes. Very much
I
so. And
would
I still
too.
get excited to Google search. Yes. I feel
Yes.
like, you know
Like
what,
I
when
feel
we
like
do
it's my
time,
birthday.
huh?
I said
What'd you
I feel
say?
like it's my birthday every time I learn something.
I love that. You know what? Yes, because we're voracious. We have a hunger for it. So before we go, Jackie, tell us something that Okay, so you already told us a class to learn how to drive. You when you were incarcerated, were you 17 or 18?
I was 18. I just turned 18.
Okay, let me tell you this. As somebody who got locked up at 18 years old and you needed that simulator to drive, what else should they have taught you as somebody who had to grow up in that environment?
I feel like they should have taught me how to be a human and
And
not
credit and all
uh
that.
scum. Yes,
Right.
like I feel like, yeah, I feel like they should have prepared me more for like the social part of the world, because sometimes I still feel awkward talking to people. Like I don't feel,
Yes.
I did feel like out of body and things like that when it comes to that area, because in prison, we have to, we don't really, you got to be careful who you talk to. So you're not talking to
Yes.
everybody being friendly and things like that. And I think
Right.
like lately, like I mean, so far I've had some great people around me, so they understand. But I am very like, give me a hug. Like I'm very huggy, touchy,
Yes,
want to
because
be
we
up
couldn't
under me and things
hug.
like that. We
Right.
didn't have it. People take
Yes,
small stuff like that, affection. They take stuff like that for granted, and we're
they
deprived of it
do.
when you're in prison. You know what
Yes,
I mean? It's
and I
small
just love
stuff
it.
like that.
I just love it too that you said it and you said it like it was. They don't teach us how to be a human. They do everything to go the opposite of it. So we have to, take it into our own hands. But also, I could have benefited from a class that taught me more about how to operate in the free world after such a long
Mhm.
period of time. So, on that note,
Yes,
I want to
after,
thank you
yeah.
for tuning in to PICS. Jackie, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. We're going to have more conversations about mental health. We're going to have more
Yes,
conversations about PICS.
yes.
And there might be
I'm
a book on
here.
the way. My first book, it's going to be Post
Okay.
Incarceration Syndrome, My Story. Check it out. Thanks, Jackie.
Yeah.